So, welcome to what I hope will be an interesting journey for all of us. Many people, when they come to Vedic astrology or they come to any such subject as we're about to approach this weekend, there's a kind of an awe and a mystery around it. And in fact, something that was it's an interesting thing that happened with me. I had a friend who came in from out of the country, and he asked me, he said, well, gosh, I know this is maybe not even good timing because you're really, really busy these days, because I know you've got something coming up soon, because this was just last week, And I said, yeah, I'm teaching a course. And he says, yeah, well, what are you teaching, And I said, I could think about it for a minute. And I said, well, I'm teaching about how to live a good life. He said, really? How to live a good life? He goes, yeah, how to be happy. To have joy in your life. And be happy. He goes, really? Well, okay, I want to come, I want to know, well, what is that, And I said, well, he said, but isn't it that you're teaching about that Vedic astrology stuff, right? And I said, well, yeah, it is that Vedic astrology stuff, but there's something very, very specific that we're going to talk about in this coming weekend that in so many ways has the seeds, has the ability to give an insight into life that will give something that is far greater than any just normal transaction of getting information. Information is something that we use and we apply in ways in our lives that can vary for the thing that it is that we want. And the thing is that with every moment we have an opportunity to find our way and to change our mind, and in changing our mind, gradually change the direction that we are heading, our trajectory, so to speak. So he says, well, okay, but how's that done? I want to know. And I said, well, it's simple, but it's not easy. He says, okay, now you've really got me intrigued, what is that? And I said, well, the nature of what we're going to talk about is how to find radical happiness, radical joy. I said, okay, well, if that's the case, it's starting to sound, I've been in California before, right? This is starting to sound like something I've heard before, And if you've ever walked into, like we're in now, a New Age bookstore, right? As one student who walked in the front door said, my God, how many books can there be on consciousness? Right? I said, well, yeah, that's true. And yet there are some fundamentals, some seeds of information that once you understand it, radical happiness can be yours, but it's not something that happens overnight. So what we're going to talk about in this weekend, what we're going to discuss, is not something, as I said, that's easy, and it's not something that will happen to you overnight. But traditions from the East were never about the quick fix. And it is about being able to apply yourself again and again. But I can say to you this, if you understand the principle that we're going to speak about this weekend, and then go on to utilize a methodology to be able to see where in someone's life that these particular dynamics unfold. How is it that in helping the individual to see that they themselves then can gain a proper understanding of themselves and of life? And I would say for all of you who hopefully by now you know me well enough that I'm not going to go off on some what you might call New Age woo-woo tangent. Right? Because that's, I could see in my friends' eyes, it was sort of like, they get that kind of glazed over look on their face, like, okay, here we go again, because, you speak about radical happiness and so forth. Well, the thing is I'm not talking about, here, take the blue pill, or here, You just just believe. All you have to do is believe, and then your whole life changes. That's not what I'm speaking about. What I'm speaking about is an understanding of a core principle that I think is fundamental to all of life, and it is a universal principle that all people in all cultures can use and absorb, but it is something that, as we speak about it in terms of Vedic astrology, or the way it is that this is embedded in Vedic astrology, you will find that Vedic astrology, or the way it is that this is used in Jyotisha, is simply a tool. It's a symbol. It is a means through which you can then approach a radical, life-transformative principle that does take time to absorb, and it even takes greater time to then begin to apply in one's life. But the thing is this. As my friend was there saying, well, isn't it Vedic astrology? I said, well, yeah. And I said, it's amazing to me the way it is that once a core principle, this principle that we're going to be discussing, is understood, then the nature of the way it is that you apply yourself in your own life to looking at a horoscope, to your own life in helping another individual, if you're looking at someone else, whether you are doing your normal, like I know in the room we have many psychologists and doctors and different people who are helping others and so forth, how it is that you begin to then counsel another person, and how it is that you can be the advisor to someone, a counselor to someone, as opposed to simply just trotting out, principles that you've learned. You will do this, you will do that, this will happen at this time, even though in Vedic astrology that is very possible. How it is very possible to look into someone's life and be able to chart their life via a sequence of time, right? And all of us in the room, all of you are nodding because you've done it before, and I've done it countless times. The thing that amazes me, though, is that, and that's what I'm hoping to instill in some of you again, and for some of you this is in some ways old information, but I hope it'll come into your ears and eyes in a different way. But it's amazing to me that when in the face of what is an uncontestable evidence that there is something called destiny, and that thing that we call destiny is something that enables us to chart the pattern and a trajectory of an individual. What is amazing to me is that in the face of that people are not more in awe. Do you understand what I mean by that? In other words, to me, my first experience when I first met my teacher, when I first met Heart to Foe, and I had a session with him, a consultation, I had no idea what I was walking into. Right? But I can tell you this, within a very short period of time, I started to think to myself, this person has something here that I've never experienced with anyone else. And I saw in his eyes a knowingness about me that in some ways looked right through me, but in a way that was compassionate, that came from a place of understanding as a place of, instead of a place of criticism or breaking one into pieces, right? As opposed to that, it becomes an environment for a holistic paradigm, right? Through which each person who is either the recipient of it or the doer of it can fall into a dynamic of an to use the Californian, an awesome experience, right? And when I mean awe at the divine, awe at an understanding of what are the makings behind everything that we have around us. So to me, I'm hoping to at least do my best to introduce you to some of that here in the weekend.